Hey Jack, we've just had a splendid time in Costa Rica once again, and I wanted to say one of the interesting things, one of the highlights for me of the conference was the lunch we had, where we were talking about drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of alcoholism, like a disease, where you kind of go into rehab and everything. But then there's just like more low-level drinking, like we actually talked about a glass or two a day, which I can certainly get into that rhythm. And you were telling me that there are reasons why we might want to reconsider why a glass or two of wine or beer or whatever a day is perhaps not as good as idea as we thought it was.
Well, there's an increasing amount of research that shows that if you are drinking, for example, if a woman drinks 6 glasses of wine in a week, she's 40% more likely to get breast cancer than not.
Whoa.
And that's a huge statistic out there, yeah. And if you drink more than that, it actually goes up to 70% more likely to get breast cancer. So, and there's all kinds of research on Alzheimer's, heart attacks, heart disease, longevity, all of those things related to the fact that alcohol is a toxin, it's a toxic substance. That's why we call it intoxicated when we drink. And so I'm a social drinker. I have 2 children who are not able to do that, whether it's psychologically or genetically predisposed to alcoholism. And so we often think you have to be an alcoholic to want to either cut back or quit. But the fact is there are health reasons to slow down and to take breaks. One of the things that I'm proposing right now is a 30-day sobriety month where you just don't drink for 30 days. Give your liver a chance to detox, give your body a chance to detox. And also what I noticed when I started writing this book, and this is why we're talking about the 30-day sobriety solution, what happens is that I decided I wasn't going to drink for a couple of weeks just to do that, and see what happened. And I noticed after about a week I was waking up with more clarity in the morning. My joints didn't hurt as much. I was getting to a place where I couldn't lift my arm above my shoulder. Now I can do that. And so, one of the things is called How to Cut Back or Quit Drinking in the Privacy of Your Own Home. And we take a lot of grief about cutting back because a lot of people think that if you're an alcoholic, you have to totally abstain. And if you are genetically predisposed, you pretty much do. But there's also research that says about 9 out of 10 people that we call excessive drinkers who drink too much, who may binge on the weekend, or the woman who's at home alone drinking a half a bottle of wine every night, alone often too, is that 9 out of those 10 people are not genetically predisposed to alcoholism, addiction, but actually are drinking too much just in terms of their health and also their ability to stay focused. And so we're proposing that instead of the happy hour, what you do is to take an hour to self-nurture yourself. If you're wanting to do that, this book has 30 days of those kinds of activities that you do that lead people. Many people quit, some people don't, but they get to the place where they're drinking in a way that's rational, sane, and we call sober. So it's not about having to be a falling down drunk who passes out every night to be considered an alcoholic.
Right. There's an interesting story about how you came to write this book. You co-authored this book with Dave Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
You were telling me how that came about.
Mm-hmm. Well, what happened is I run seminars, and I also teach seminars on how to be a bestseller. And I was doing that in Philadelphia, and Dave Andrews came to the workshop, and he said, I have a coaching program where it's called the 30-Day Sobriety Solution, where in 30 days, I get people to stop drinking. And a lot of it's based on your work, Jack. And I said, really? He said, yeah, I was someone who was totally an alcoholic to the point where his wife was about to leave him. His kids were afraid he was going to die. He was like falling asleep, almost drowning in his own vomit some nights. And his best friend died. And so he decided to try to get sober, and he went to rehab 3 times and relapsed 3 times and was kind of like giving up. And then he said, someone gave me a Tony Robbins tape and I listened to it, and I said, why aren't they teaching this in rehab? And so he started reading all the different people in the human potential movement and the self-development movement and started integrating that into his own life and got sober and stayed sober 8 years now. And so he said, I want to share this with other people, and that's why he started that program. But it includes things like visualization, neuro-linguistic programming, EFT tapping, and so forth. And we're getting an 80% success rate with people who were either alcoholics or excessive drinkers being able to stop in a 30-day period.
So 80% people regain control over the habit.
Yeah, it's 79.6%, but I'm rounding up for 0.4. And
hyping again.
I know, there we go. And so, it was interesting, he was getting that in his coaching program, and I said, Dave, the coaching program is too valuable to be limited to, the couple hundred, 1,000 people you work with every year. Let's do a book. And then the challenge was, could people get the same value from a book that they got from coaching with Dave?
And you've tried that out already, right? You've had people.
Yes, we actually did a beta test group of the book only, and we had the same 80% success rate of the people that did that. And the longevity of the earlier clients, it extends on. It doesn't as much as I love AA, and it's been very helpful to two of my children and my sister, what's happened is that only about 10% to 20% of people who go through AA actually stay sober. One of my friends said that when he realized something else needed to happen, he teaches yoga and lifestyle now as part of a sobriety program, is when he got his 20-year chip, he was hugging his sponsor, and he said, you're 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000 who actually made it 20 years. And we see the success rate in rehab centers is 15 to 30%, depending on who you talk to, and most of those are not longitudinal studies. So basically, I said, we have to find a way to get this information out to other people because there's so much pain, so much misery, financial distress, people not performing on the job, accidents, DUIs, drunk drivers, killing people, etc., that we need to stop. So I think this is a game changer.
Beautiful, but there's another level to it because you've described fairly sort of far gone levels of addiction, but there's also just somebody who drinks, as you said, drinks a glass or two a day, and it means that person is, for the latter part of the day, they are influenced by a substance that has changed their consciousness and changes their decisions. So there's a good reason to cut back, just to stop drinking, even if it's not that problematic.
In my trainings, which are 5 or 7 day trainings, I ask people not to drink for the 5 or 7 days. And the reason I do that is the research shows that when you drink alcohol, it stays in your system for 36 hours. So a lot of people are what are called functional alcoholics. They drink, they get up, they go to work, and they do pretty well. But they're not doing as well as they would do if they were 100% sober, or maybe a social drinker, maybe only drinking on the weekends. But we see the college kids that are dropping out of college, that are getting F's and D's and so forth because they're drinking too much during their college. My stepson was the pledge master at a fraternity a couple of years ago and just graduated college a few years ago. And he had one of his students, one of his pledges almost die of alcohol poisoning. It's part of the culture. You're a man if you drink. Wall Street, you're a man if you go out to the bar afterwards. And they have all these, boutique bars with craft drinks and so forth. And people get pretty much, shit-faced, to use the term that's out there in the culture. And then they go home and they're not available for their kids, they're not available for their wives, they can't really study and read a book, and they just basically pass out or veg out in front of the television. And over time, it has a tremendously deadening effect on both your body and your relationships. And I think your spiritual growth.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, tell me who would benefit from this book? Tell me a few kinds of people who this book would be.
Well, I think two things. I think definitely if you think you have an alcohol problem, if you're drinking too much, if your wife and kids and family and spouse and other people have told you. I think if you're someone that can't afford to go to rehab because it's too expensive, or you can't afford the time off from work to take 3 months out of your life in terms of your career, because the subtitle's in the privacy of your own home. And there's a lot of people who don't want to go to AA because even though it's anonymous, it's not really when you go there. If people know who you are, and if you're in the military, it goes on your record. It can affect your advancement, I think, in terms of just people in the career. One of the graduates of this program, when we got the book out, we gave him a advanced review copy, is a very well-known famous speaker who I shall not name. And he told us he hadn't been sober more than 12 days his entire adult life. And he would go out and do these 5-6 day boot camps. He'd go back to his room, he'd drink a whole bottle of vodka until he passed out, get up the next morning, come back and do it again. He was so ashamed that he couldn't control that he didn't want anyone to know. In fact, when we sent him the book, we had to send it to a P.O. box that he rented just to get the book, because he didn't want his wife or anyone in his office to think that he had this problem. And so basically, if you're that kind of person, if you have a family member, a friend that you care about who is drinking, and they're not going to go to rehab or join AA, this is an opportunity to do this. One of my friends gave this to her cousin over Christmas, and he's only been using it, for a few weeks. We're recording this in the end of January. And the reality is he's already making strides. Another friend, Steve D'Annunzio, is here, told me that one of his clients, who's an insurance executive, called him, picked the book up in the airport, said he read it on the plane. 2 days later, he's already getting value. He hasn't had a drink for 2 days. So, if it could be for you. If you could, you might just be that person that has a couple of glasses of wine every night, but the effect on your system is strong. And there's, if you're going red wine, you get resveratrol, it's good for you. You can get those in pills at your health food store and by eating grapes, So I'm not saying never drink. I know I will drink again, and I'm doing a 30-day, we call it Sobriety Challenge right now. Yeah. And I've lost some weight in the process, which is really cool. And I'm not eating as much, because what I notice when I drink, I eat more, my discipline goes down, I end up eating dessert because I'm a little tipsy, my self-discipline isn't there. I don't wake up and exercise in the morning as much, I don't do my meditation if I'm hungover. So I literally am excited, going about now 2.5 weeks sober. And again, not a drinking problem, but I feel clearer and brighter. So I think it's good for all of us. If we just once a year did maybe a 30-day challenge and just let our bodies recalibrate, and you find that, I'm finding now that when I go back, I have a wine cellar full of wine because I can afford to do that, and that was one of the things when I made it, I give myself permission to do. And I'm not going to drink as much. I'm clear that I'm happier and more focused and more productive when I'm not.
I just want to finish this little conversation we're having here by just reflecting something back to you that I think is useful for other people to know too. That you've had phenomenal success in your life. Just fairy tale story success with Chicken Soup for the Soul, with, what is it, 500 million copies?
500 million in 50 languages, yeah.
China, yeah. And you've done success principles. You've just succeeded in every possible way. And what I've noticed is you're in your early 70s now, and you just keep putting it out there. But what I've noticed in getting to know you in these last 10 years is you really care about people, and I see with so much success, you can really focus on wanting to make the greatest possible difference and not just looking for a niche. And I can see with this book, you've put this book out because you can see there's a need, and I hold it up again. I really hope that people who could benefit from this will really take the leap.
Yeah, it's called the 30-Day Sobriety Solution. How to cut back or quit drinking in the privacy of your home. And it really is a 30-day program. It's not a book, it's a program. And the other thing, Arjuna, that's really cool about it, there is a free companion website that comes with the book that has, probably hundreds of hours of additional content, videos, audio programs, guided visualizations, meditations, etc., that support this. So literally, during that happy hour, if you were to just do one of the exercises for each day in the book and go to the website for 15 or 20 minutes, it will transform your life. And it's true, I value the wealth that my success has brought me as the resources I can now use to make a bigger difference than I could have when I didn't have that. I love Bob Proctor. He says, if you're not wealthy, the only good you can do is with the people that are near you. But if you're wealthy, you can build schools in Africa, you can write books that affect people in 50 countries, etc. And this book came about not because I met Dave only, but because 2 of my children had suffered through this challenge with alcohol, and I'd seen the pain that was caused with, their mother, with me, with them, their friends, their school, etc. And so this is a labor of love. I really hope that it makes a difference in the lives of millions of people.
Jack Canfield, thank you for loving the world.
Oh, thank you for seeing that.